This conference will now be recorded.
Is screen visible for you? Students? Is screen visible for you? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good morning, students. Today we are here for conducting a seminar and welcome you to seminar. The presenters for today's seminar are Ms. Shrutika Navilale and Ms. Rekha Patil from MSc Nursing, from the MSc Nursing first year from Department of Child Health Nursing. So the topic for today's seminar is Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. Objectives of seminar are: at the end of this session, the participants will be able to define NICU, organization of NICU, admission and discharge procedure in NICU, levels of NICU, transport of sick neonate, and organization and management of nursing care. So we'll see the introduction. Is it audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So introduction. NICU stands for the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, sometimes called a special care nursery. The nurseries care for the baby who are born early or who have problems during or who develop problems while still in the hospital stay. The first official ICU for neonates was established in 1961 at Vanderbilt University. Mendel Stahlman officially termed a NICU when Stahlman used a ventilator off label for a baby with breathing difficulties for the first time ever. So we'll see the definition of NICU. A neonatal intensive care unit, also known as an intensive care nursery, is an intensive care unit specializing in the care of a ill or a premature newborn infants. The neonatal refers to the first 28 days of life, and the neonatal care, as known as specialized nurseries or intensive care, has been around from 1960s. The aims or goals of NICU: to improve the condition of the critically ill neonates, keeping in mind the survival of the neonates so as to reduce the neonatal mortality and the morbidity. To provide continuing in-service training to medicine and the nursing personnel in the care of the newborn. To monitor the health rate, body temperature, blood pressure, central venous pressure, and the blood by non-invasive techniques. To measure the oxygenation concentration of the blood is by oxygen analyzer. Next, continuation: to check, observe alarm system signals to find out the changes beyond certain fixed limits set on the monitors. To administer precise amounts of fluids and minute quantities of drugs through IV infusion pumps. Are you clear? So we'll see the objectives of NICU. To save the life of the sick newborn, to prevent damage in infants with problems at birth and also reduce the morbidity in the later life, to monitor high risk newborns so as to reduce the morbidity and mortality in these babies. So we'll see what are the trends in NICU. Firstly, that is advanced technology. There are many kinds of technology in the NICU, including the different types of infant ventilators, monitors, and supportive devices such as the infusion pumps, oxygen hoods, and incubators. More than any other phenomenon, technological developments seem to have become the most transforming force in the advancement of the neonatal care. It was the development of the first infant ventilator that many medical professionals believe actual birthed the NICU. Prior to that time, the incubator kept infants warm, but only the strongest survived in the small isolated special care nurseries. NICU professionals. The professionals who work in NICU are highly trained in the care of the preterm babies. There are neonatologists, neonatal nurse practitioners, staff nurses, respiratory therapists, developmental therapists, specialists, occupational therapists, and physical therapists. These team of professionals work together with the family to provide a holistic approach to the management of a child's needs. Next is philosophy of care. The neonatal intensive care has become a leader in the provision of family centered care, which recognizes the unique and individual needs of each infant and a family. The family centered care is a philosophy of care in which the pivotal role of the family is acknowledged and respected in the lives of children. Within this philosophy, families are supported in their natural caregiving and decision making roles, and the medical professionals respect their unique strengths as people and families. The family centered care strengthens the family unit through advocacy, empowerment, and enabling the family to nurture and support their child's development. So we'll see the babies who need the NICU admission. Some factors that can place a baby a high risk and increased the chances of being admitted to NICU. But each baby must be assessed to see if he or she needs the admission in NICU. The high risk factors includes the following. They include the below. So these are categorized in the three factors: maternal factors, delivery factors, the child factors. First one, maternal factors. Being younger, the mother age being younger than or older than 40 years. Drug or alcohol, diabetes, multiple pregnancies, too much or too little amniotic fluid, which is called as oligo, and premature rupture of membrane. Next is delivery factors, that is fetal distress or birth asphyxia, breech birth or any other abnormal positions, meconium aspiration syndromes, knuckle cold, and the forceps or the cesarean delivery. Here in the picture you can see the baby is having the knuckle cord, which is the cord is around the neck. Next is baby's factors The baby born at a gestational age less than 37 weeks or more than 42 weeks. The birth weight less than 5 pounds, 8 ounces or 2500 grams or over 8 pounds or 13 ounces, that is 4000 grams. The baby who is small for the gestational age. Next is medicine or the baby who have received the resuscitation during the delivery, the birth defects, respiratory distress, including the rapid breathing, grunting, or apnea, infections, hypoglycemia, and special treatment. So, we'll see what are the equipments present in NICU. First one is resuscitation equipments. The equipments needed for the resuscitation are present in the emergency tray, which contains ambu bag and mask, infant laryngoscopes, tracheal tubes of different sizes, sterile suction catheters, oral mucus suction traps, and the emergency drugs. So these are the resuscitation equipments which are present in the emergency tray. Next is oxygen and suction facilities. A centralized source of oxygen, compressed air, and a suction outlet consoles affixed on the walls is ideal. So you have seen this equipment which is fixed over the wall in the NICUs, or in many ICUs you have seen, I think. So catheters, syringes, and the needles. Nasogastric polyethylene feeding tubes, umbilical vein catheters, small vein infusion sets, medicats are pre-packed sterile by process of gamma irradiation. Only single-use syringes and needles should be used in the care of newborns. Next is cardiac monitor. It refers to the continuous or intermittent monitoring of heart activity. It is attached to sensor on the baby and provides a constant readout of the baby's heart rate and rhythm, breathing rate, arterial and central venous pressure, and other useful informations. Alarms can be configured to provide an alert when any of the vital signs being monitored goes above or below the certain limit. Next is pulse oximeter. The pulse oximeter provides a simple, convenient, and non-invasive method for continuous monitoring of hemoglobin saturated with oxygen. The arterial blood oxygen saturation can be determined transcutaneously by measuring the absorption of two selected wavelength of light. The light generated in the probe passes through the blood and tissues and is converted into the electrical signals. Neonatal ventilators. The neonatal ventilators provide the ventilatory support to preterm and critically ill infants who suffer from respiratory failure and who generally have low compliance lungs. The small tidal volume, high airway resistance, and high respiratory rates. These mechanical ventilators promote alveolar gas exchange by generating positive pressure to inflate the lungs of neonate. So next is intracranial pressure monitor. So this is the intracranial pressure monitor wherein the probe is on the neonate's head and you can see that it is monitoring. Next is infusion pump. Most sick babies have one or more intravenous or arterial lines, and the fluid that is delivered through those lines must be very carefully regulated, all the way down to the amount of 0.1 cc per hour, about 1 by 130 of these teaspoons per hour. There are many brands, sizes, and shape of IV pumps. The pump shown here is called as IVAC. Drainage pump. It may be hooked up to the nasogastric tube or to other tubes in order to keep the secretions from accumulating in the stomach or to drain out the areas when the infant is very sick. These pumps can be adjusted to provide the constant or intermittent suctioning. Blood gas analyzer. So this machine you can see in every ICUs, not only in NICU. Next is bassinets. A variety of bassinets are available for routine use in the nursery. It is desirable to use because it can be cleaned and are equipped with lockers and head tilting machines or mechanism. They are placed at convenient height and are desirable for observation and examination. Next is incubator. The incubators are essential to provide an ideal microenvironment for high-risk newborns. About one-third of nursery beds should comprise of incubator. The main functions of an incubator are isolation, maintenance of thermoneutral ambient temperature, desired humidity, and administer the oxygen. Next is radiant warmer. The radiant warmer is body warming device to provide heat to the body. This device helps to maintain the body temperature of a baby and limit the metabolism. Next is phototherapy. Phototherapy is now generally accepted as safe and effective method for the treatment of neonatal bilirubinemia, a light source designed to give an irradiance or flux of 10 to 30 microwatt or per centimeter square nanometer between 400 to 520 nanometer wavelength range at the mattress is ideal. A square shaped or a circle shaped box made of plastic or perspex which can enclose the head of the infant is useful for administer of higher concentration of oxygen. Defibrillator. It is used to stop the heart. What is? Please mute yourself. Students, please mute yourself. Okay. It is used to shock the heart from an abnormal rhythm pattern back to a normal rhythm. Every neonatal ICU has one of these devices, but they are rarely used there. Abnormal heart rhythms are quite unusual in babies. Even those babies with several cardiac abnormalities, arrhythmias, are more typical of aged patients with damaged heart muscle or conduction pathways. So we'll see what are the staffing in NICU. I have listed some of the main staffs who are in NICU. First one is neonatologist. Neonatologists are the pediatricians with additional training in the care of newborn babies. The neonatal nurse practitioners or advanced practice nurses who specialized in the care of newborns, and the doctors in training to be pediatricians or the residents or neonatologist may also help care for your baby under the supervision of an attending neonatologist. Neonatal clinical nurse specialist. A neonatal nurse with advanced training who work under the supervision of the neonatologist and who cares for the sick and the premature babies. Next is registered nurse, a health professional who have passed a written examination after graduating from a college or hospital nursing program. The registered nurses in NICUs have experience in caring for the sick newborns. The nurse who to patients ratio should be 1:4 to 5 per shift in NICU, while in more intensive care areas providing mechanical ventilation support, the nurse baby ratio should be 1:1 or 2 per shift. The nurses should have necessary skills like maintaining the nursery routines, keeping the cleanliness and disinfection, feeding by bottle, garbage, etc., monitoring the sick babies, giving IV fluids and injections, providing oxygen and other respiratory support, using various equipments, and so on. Good nursing care is the backbone of NICU, and therefore, experienced and the skilled in charge and other nurses are essential for the quality service in NICU. So next is respiratory therapist. Respiratory therapists manage respiratory equipments such as ventilators and CPAP machines to make sure they are functioning according to the doctor's orders. They may also provide the breathing treatments. Next is physical therapist, a health professional who helps evaluate how a baby move and how any movement problems may affect the milestones like sitting, rolling, or walking. The physical therapist aims to improve the muscle strength and coordination. The technicians, staff members who perform the specific procedures such as drawing blood or taking the x-rays. So these are the staffs in NICU and their functions, some of the main functions of the staffs. Next, we'll go through the organization and physical setup of the NICU. First is space. The size of the neonate is related to the expected population intended to be served. In India, 15 to 20% of newborn babies need the special care. In maternity unit having 2000 deliveries per year, facilities for special care of 6 to 8 high risk infants should be available. Each infant should be provided with minimum of 100 square feet of area. Additional space should be provided for special facilities. There should be no compromise on space, and its adequacy is crucial for the reduction of the nosocomial infection. Location. The neonatal unit should be located as close as possible to the labor rooms and obstetric operation theatre to facilitate prompt transfer of the sick and the high-risk infants. Next is nursery design. The unit design may be square space or a single corridor based rectangular unit. A unit design occupying one side of corridor with a nurse's control room in the center from where all the babies can be viewed. Apart from constant surveillance of all the babies, the design should ensure minimal walking distance for the staff. The baby care area. The unit should be provided with areas and rooms for new inborn or intramural babies, step down nursery, outborn or the extramural babies. The examination area, mother's area for breastfeeding and expression of the breast milk, the nurse's station and charting area. The floors and the walls should be washable, and the windows should have two layers of glass panes to ensure some measures of heat and sound insulations. Next is hand washing and gowning room. The hand washing and gowning facilities should be located at the entrance. The pictorial hand washing instructions should be provided on the walls near the sink. The sink should be of stainless steel. The unit should have 24 hours uninterrupted water supply. Examination area. A small comfortable room with examination table, comfortable sitting, sufficient light and warmth is needed for the assessment of a baby before admission. The baby is cleaned and provided with nursery garments in this room. Hand washing stations. Hand washing sinks should be provided within 20 feet of every newborn bed. The sink should be large and deep, made of proclaim or a stainless steel. Single-use cotton or a disposable paper napkins should be available for drying the hands. Alternatively, antiseptic solutions can be used for the disinfection of the hands. Next is preparation for intravenous fluids. A separate area should be earmarked and provided with laminar flow system for preparation of intravenous fluids, parenteral nutrition formation, enteral feeds, and the medications. The nurses station. The nurses station and charting area for the nurses and the residents should be located in the central from where all the babies can be observed. The newborn charts, hospitals, forms, computer terminals, telephone lines should be located in this area. Next is staff rooms. Space should be provided within the unit to meet the professional, personal, and the administrative needs of the resident staff on the duty. Next is ventilation. The most satisfactory ventilation is achieved with laminar airflow system, which is rather expensive. When centralized air conditioning is used, minimum of 12 changes of room air per hour are recommended. The air conditioning ducts must be provided with millipur filters to restrict the passage of microbes. A constant positive air pressure should be maintained in the nursery so that the contaminated air from the corridors does not gain access into the nursery. Next is lighting. It is best achieved by cool white fluorescent tubes to provide at least 100-foot candles, shadow-free illumination at the infant's level. Spot illumination for the various procedures can be provided by a portable angle poise lamp having two 15-watt fluorescent bulbs which when held at a distance of about 1 foot from the infant procedure about 100-foot candle intensity of light. Next is environmental temperature and humidity. The temperature of nursery complex must be maintained around 28 plus or minus 2 degrees Celsius in order to minimize the effects of thermal stress on the babies. The room temperature can be reasonably well maintained in winter by the use of the radiant heaters and hot air blowers. The portable radiant heaters, infrared lamp or bakery bulb can be used to provide the additional source of heat to an individual infant. Students, mute yourself. Next is electrical outlet. There should be adequate number of light and power electrical lines attached to the common ground. Each infant must be provided with at least 8 electrical outlets. The electrical equipment used in the nursery must be checked at least once in a month for usage of current and adequacy of current. So the next part will be dealt by my cousin Rekha Patil. Please mute yourself.
Good morning, everyone. The further part will be continued by me. We will see the admission process, how the admission process will be carried out in the NICU. We see the definition. What is the admission? So, admission is defined as allowing the patient to stay in the hospital for observation, investigation, treatment, and the care, or admission, the entry of the patient into the hospital, ward, or therapeutic diagnostic purposes. Student, please mute yourself. So we will see what all the purposes of the admission. Purposes of admission are to undergo the evaluation and treatment, to know what is really happening in his or her body, to provide emotional security to the admitted patient and his family. I think it's a bit. Please mute yourself. Yes. So we have seen the definition and the purposes of the NICU admission. So preparation, how we will prepare the ward before the admission. So whenever arrival of a sick newborn, prepare the following, like warm the incubator to 33 to 36 degrees Celsius or switch on radiant warmer. Check whether resuscitation trolley is well soaked. Arrange oxygen, air, suction apparatus. Keep vital signs monitor ready. Keep ready specific equipments as indicated by the diagnosis. So you will be knowing as you are working hospital side how you prepare for admission process. If patient is coming from casualty, you will be ready with all these things. So same like in NICU also, we must ready with all those things. So admission routine. So what we will do after the admission, check the following carefully during every admission. Carry out procedures on the baby in an incubator under the warm heat sources. Why we want to carry out all the procedure under the radiant warmer? So the baby may not be maintaining or adjusting with the external environment. So we must keep the baby under the radiant warmer, and whatever procedure we have to do, we must carry it out under the radiant warmer only. Record time of admission of a baby. This is very important. We must entry the time of admission when the baby got admitted. We must enter in our logbook. Enter the correct postal address in a nursery register. Check the identification tag of the baby. Verify. Identification tag is very important to prevent the legal issues, and verify baby's details like a sex, name of a mother, time, and date of the birth. Assess the gestation using the simple physical criteria. Next, measure the temperature by axillary route. If there is hypothermia, cross-check with the rectal temperature. So these are the admission routines we must follow after the baby get admitted into the NICU. So next, weigh the baby as soon as possible. This is very important. We must weigh the baby frequently as daily routine also we must weigh. Keep the weighing record. Put new sterile sheet or autoclaved paper under every baby to prevent the cross infection. We must change the sterile sheet or paper for every baby after the after very checked. Then record reason for admission after obtaining a brief history of a birth and maternal details. Do not give bath. Babies can be given a scrub in their incubators when their condition permits. So usually we don't give bath in NICUs. They only give the scrub for the babies under the radiant warmer only. Check the vital signs like heart rate, respiratory rate, and the blood pressures. We should monitor these vital signs very keenly. Note major malformations like cleft lip, myelomeningeal, and the anal defects and record them. For sick babies admitted in the intensive care unit, do the following in addition. So what can be done in addition? That is to attach chest leads and connect to the monitor. Attach skin temperature probe. Nurse on servo control mode, that is 36.5 degrees Celsius. Apply pulse oximeter as ordered. Check blood glucose level and record it. So babies are most probably getting low sugar level, so hypoglycemia and all. So we must regularly monitor the blood glucose level and must record them, and prepare for the fluid administration. Assist with the collection of blood and the procedure. After documentation, ensure that parents are informed of the condition as soon as possible. So this is very much important for after every procedure or by or while carrying out any procedure on a baby, we must inform or should take informed consent from their parents. So this is about we have seen till now the admission process in NICU. After that, the baby will get stabilize or get improved. Then the doctor or the pediatrician will plan for the discharge, or if they won't directly discharge the baby, they will plan to ship the baby to see the baby whether the baby is maintaining without extra support, like they will shift to general ward or ward side, etc. After that, they will plan for the discharge. So we will see how the discharge process will carried out in NICU settings. During the NICU stay, the most parents are continually thinking about their baby will be discharged so that they can go home and resume a normal life. Leaving the hospital is exciting time, but it can also be worrisome to leave behind the continual medical support that the NICU offers. So discharge order. Discharge requirements vary from hospital to hospital. So of course, discharge requirements will be vary from hospital to hospital. Most agree, however, that babies must be able to properly maintain their own temperature. So when the doctor will plan the baby for discharge, when means baby will try to maintain their own temperature, to consume nutrition through breastfeeding or the bottle feeding, or to maintain steady weight gain. In addition, most hospitals require that babies are free of apnea spell for a week or more. Sometimes hospitals prefer to care for babies until they reach their actual due date, but other hospitals allow babies to go home much earlier once they have reached a healthy weight of 4 or 5 pounds. Prior to being completely discharged from the hospital, most babies will be moved to regular nursery for time to see well how well they do without the extra support offered in the NICU setting. So as we know, we can't directly discharge some high risk babies. We will transfer them to the ward side and we will observe them for some period of time. If they are maintaining themselves, then only we will plan for discharge. So baby safety and issues. So while after the discharge, we should ensure the baby's safeties and issues. Before babies are discharged from the hospital, caregivers will be instructed on a baby's issues, safety issues. Like the caregivers will be usually asked to bring their own vehicle to sit ensure safety ensure or during the traveling. Also, caregivers will be instructed about proper sleep, safety, which involves putting a baby on his or her back always to prevent the suffocation. Also, caregivers will be required to attend an infant a CPR class so that they will be prepared to handle any emergencies. Some babies may be discharged while still they are in need of monitor or other equipments. Caregivers will be trained on this equipment prior to discharge. So, during the discharge time, being a nurse, it's our responsibility to explain the mothers in their own language how to care the babies or how to care even after the discharge in the home setting. So, it is our responsibility. This is nursing's responsibility to educate the parents or give health education to manage in home environment. So resources, most hospital will provide parents a list of services that are available to them. Such services may include early intervention programs, physical therapy, speech therapy, support groups, and various social services. The parents will be also advised to schedule an appointment with a pediatrician of their choice within a few days of arriving at their home. Also, other appointments may be scheduled with specialists if any health problems require further care. So we must we also have to tell about the further appointment discharge routine. The following should be noted while planning for the discharge of a baby from the nursery. So as soon doctor says to discharge the baby, we can't directly hand over to the parents. There are some discharge criteria we must follow. So there are some following criterias like ensure baby is feeding well, preferably at the breast and gaining weight. Check the discharge weight, head circumference and the length and record it. Check whether the doctor has prepared the discharge summary and given appointment for further follow-up. Confirm whether mother is clear about baby bath, feeding, immunization, medications, and other schedules. So, being a nurse, it's our responsibility to inform the mother about cleanliness, how to maintain the cleanliness of a baby, daily bathing, feeding, further immunization. We must give instruction to follow the immunization schedule and the wrapping of the baby and maintain a warm uh, to the baby in home environment also. Clarify whether mother knows proper wrapping methods and use of caps and booties, especially when discharging low birth weight babies. When baby with a low birth weight, we must instruct the mother how to wrap the baby, how to maintain baby warm, and we also instruct the mother uh, regarding kangaroo mother care when we discharging the low birth weight babies. And next is check whether home conditions are appropriate to receive the baby. Record date and time of discharge in the ward logbook. So after the discharge and every procedure, we must enter in a discharge in register book. So we will see. So till now we have seen the admission process, discharge process in NICU. Now we will see the levels of NICU. What all are the levels of NICU? So although all NICUs care for babies who needs extra help, different NICUs offer different level of care. So level 1. So what level 1 is providing care is basic newborn care. In this, nurseries care for healthy full-term babies. They are able to stabilize. They mainly handle only full-term babies. Uh, they stabilize the full-term babies born near term to get them ready to transfer to facilitate that offer special care. Well newborn nursery has the capabilities to provide neonatal resuscitation at every delivery, evaluate and provide postnatal care to healthy newborn infant, stabilize and provide care for the infants born at 35 to 37 week of gestation who remain physiologically stable, stabilize newborn infant who are ill and those born at 45 week of gestation until transfer to facility that can provide appropriate level of neonatal care. So mostly in level 1 they only stabilize the baby and who is means who born with 37 week of gestation, who are normal only, who was about normal only. So they handle such cases at the level 1. Level 2, this is a specialty newborn care. uh, these nurseries can care for babies born at greater than 32 week of gestation or who are recovering from more serious condition. In this level bit critical condition, they will handle special nursery care, that is level 2 unit, are subdivided into two categories, that is level second A and level second B. So second A, these nurseries do not provide assisted ventilation. So may not be the facility of ventilators and all, but level 2, the nurseries can provide assisted ventilation for less than 24 hours and can also provide continuous positive airway pressure, that is nothing but the CPAP. So this is bit they handle critical cases and also they provide ventilation and CPAP to the babies in level 2 unit. So level 2A we have already seen has the capabilities to resuscitate and stabilize the preterm or ill infants before the transfer to facility at which newborn intensive care is provided. So provide care for the infants who born at 32 week of gestation, weighing 1500 gram, a baby who have physiological immaturity such as apnea of prematurity, inability to maintain body temperature, or inability to take oral feedings, or the babies who are mandatorily ill with the problems that are anticipated to resolve rapidly and are not anticipated to need subspecialty services on an urgent basis. Provide care for the infants who are convalescing after the intensive care. So level 2B has the capabilities of level A nursery, and the addition capability to provide mechanical ventilation for brief duration of 24 hours or continue positive airway pressure, that is CPAP. So we will see the level third, that is subspecialty newborn care. What services the level 3 will provide means level 3 NICUs care for the sickest babies and offer the greatest variety of support. These NICU are subdivided into three categories, that is level 3A. These nurseries can care for babies born greater than 28 weeks. They offer mechanical ventilation and minor surgeries procedures such as central line. So these are some procedures we can't carry it out in level 2 or level 1 type of NICUs, because this is bit critical procedure. We need highly assisted monitors and all these. Then level 3B level NICUs can offer different type of mechanical ventilation, have access to wide range of pediatric specialists, can use imaging capabilities beyond x-rays, and may provide some surgeries requiring anesthesia. Level 3C is the most acute care is provided in level 3C NICUs. These nurseries can provide advanced ventilation, including ECMO, that is nothing but intracorporeal membrane oxygenation, and can provide advanced surgeries, including open heart surgeries to correct the congenital heart defects. So in this level, they handle the critical cases. Not only critical, the more critical cases they'll handle. That after this, the transport of sick neonate, if the case is means if they want to refer the higher unit or higher authority, they must transfer the baby from one organization to other organization, or it may be within the organization. So how to transfer the baby or sick neonate from one organization to other organization or within the organization? So this is a bit means different. To transfer normal neonate is different than to transfer the sick neonate. Principle of transfer of the sick neonate is transfer of neonates involve pre-transport intensive care level resuscitation and stabilization, and continuing intra-transport care to ensure that the child arrives in a stable state. So we need a team. We can't directly ship the baby in hurry burry and all. We should have the proper guidelines to ship the baby to from one organization to other organization. Organized neonatal transport team bring the intensive care environment to critically ill infants before and during inter-hospital or intra-hospital transport. The basis of a safe and timely transport is good communication and coordination between the referring and receiving hospital to ensure the adequate stabilization, pre-transport and continuing intra-transport care. So we must ensure the good team to transport the baby from one organization to other organization. There must be a good communication in between the organization so that baby will transport safely. There is a rare need to haste. There must be a balance between anticipated clinical complication that may arise due to delay or definitive care and the benefit of further stabilization. So what are equipments we need in the child transport? So we must need the airway access, then a cannula and the dressings, chest drainage if it is present, then urinary catheters. So pre-transport stabilization, Transport of the neonate is significant stress on the child and they can easily deteriorate during the journey. The presence of hypothermia, hypotension, metabolic acidosis has a significant negative impact on the eventual patient's outcome. It is also impossible to do any significant procedure well during the actual transport. Therefore, stabilization pre-transport is a critical to ensure good patient outcome. So, transferring a sick neonate or high risk neonate is not so easy. We must ensure all the safety and the uh, safety precautions while transferring the baby. The principle of initial stabilization of the neonate follow the widely recognized ABCs. What is the ABCs? That is nothing but A is for airway, B is for breathing, and C is for circulation. We must maintain these AB3 ABCs, that is airway, breathing, and the circulation. So what all are the equipments we need? That is the monitor, the ventilators, the defibrillators, and the immobilization devices and the transportation devices. So we must have check this: the airway, breathing pattern, the circulation, disability, and the exposure. So how to maintain the airway? Airway management: establish a patent airway, evaluate the need of oxygen, frequent suctioning. If the baby is intubated or a baby is on oxygen, need a different kind of care. Then frequent suctioning is very important. And artificial airway, potential splitting of diaphragm, security of airway, the endotracheal tube must be secure to prevent intra-transfer dislocation. Chest X-ray to check the position of ET tube. So if the baby is intubated, we must ensure the airway clearance. So we must frequently suction the baby and stabilize that ET tube for its dislocation. And breathing: the need for intra-transport ventilation has been assessed, requires FiO2 60% to maintain the adequate oxygenation. We must uh, adjust the FiO2 according to baby's needs. ABG, that is blood gas, arterial blood gas analysis. We must ensure the PCO2 and O2 is more than 60 mm of 60 mm. Tachypnea and the expected respiratory fatigue. Then recurrent amniotic episode, expected increased abdominal or bowel distension during the air transport. If there is any possibility that the child may require to ventilated during the transfer, it is safer to electively intubate and ventilate before the setting off. So if baby is on oxygen, then while the transferring the baby, if baby means got suffocated or there is a need for ventilate the baby during the transport, so we can intubate the baby electively during the transport. If in doubt, the receiving surgeon should be consulted. If manual ventilation is not be performed throughout the journey, due to consideration must be taken about fatigue and possible erratic nature of ventilation. So circulation, heart rate and the perfusion, that is capillary refill, are good indicators of hydration status of the baby. The blood pressure in a neonate drops just before the baby decompensate. The urine output should be minimum of 1 to 2 ml per kg per hour. The baby can be catheterized or the nappy's weight, that is 1 gram, is equals to 1 ml of urine. If baby is not catheterized, then we can we can get weigh the nappies. That is 1 gram is equals to 1 ml of urine. A reliable intravenous access, at least 2 cannula, must be ensured before the setting off. If the child is dehydrated, the child must be rehydrated before leaving. Then, immediately before departure, check vital signs and condition of a baby. Check and secure all the tubes, whether the ET tube or catheter or the IV cannulae are placed in their place, etc. We must check. Check the competencies and functioning of the equipments. Recommunicate with the receiving doctors and current status of expected time of arrival. Next, intra-transport care, that is staff. Ideally, there should be a specialized neonatal transport team. If not, the medical escort should be a neonatal trained doctor with or without a neonatal trained staff nurse. A minimum of 2 escorts will be required for the ventilated or critically ill baby. The team should be familiar with the resuscitation and the care of neonate. They should also be able to handle critical incidents. The team members should preferably not be prone to travel sickness. Safety of a team must be priority. Ensure life jackets and survival equipment should be made available for the escort team and the parents. Regular monitor for vital signs, oxygenation, and perfusion of should be performed. Fluids, intravenous fluids must be given to ill child to prevent dehydration and acidosis during the transport. Boluses need to be given as necessary depending on the assessment of the perfusion and heart rate of a child. If catheterized, the urine output can be monitored. The orogastric tube should be aspirated as required. So how we will come to know whether the baby is dehydrated or dehydrated and all? So we can check the urine output, or frequently we must check the NG tube for the aspiration. The temperature regulation, a check on a baby's temperature should be made. Wet clothes should be changed if required, especially in child with abdominal wall defects. Disposable diapers and one-way nappy linens can be very useful here. So critical incidents like pre-operative operation is to minimize the critical incidents, as this can cause loss of life and stress to the transport team. Age at Ill Critical Care Medicine 1994 showed that the number of critical incidents that occurred during the transport by the non-specialized team was 10 times occurrence when transported by a specialized team. So this is very important to make sure that the team who is transferring the baby, that should be a specialized one. Then next is arrival at the receiving hospital. So till now we have seen how to transport the babies and what all the care uh, we have to take during the intra transfer. So what care we have to take in after arriving to the receiving hospital are reassessment of the baby, then handover to the resident team. Next is intra-hospital transport. Use transport incubator if available. Ensure all parties concerned are ready before the transfer. Send team member ahead to commander's lift, clean corridors. Ensure patient is stable before the transfer. Then skilled medical and nursing staff should be accompany the patient. Ensure adequate supply of oxygen. Prepare essential equipments and monitors for the transfer. Ensure Venous lines are patent. Well secured infusion pumps should have charged batteries. To decrease bulk of equipments, infusions like insulin and relaxants may be ceased temporarily. So this is about how we can transfer the baby or sick neonate from one organization to other organization. Next, we will see prevention of nosocomial infection. How we can prevent this nosocomial infection or hospital acquired infection, we can say. So ICUs are notorious for spread of nosocomial infections by multi-drug resistant hospital acquired pathogens because critically sick children are immunocompromised. Therefore, the following guidelines are followed for the asepsis. In every ICUs, we maintain these sepsis precautions to prevent the nosocomial infection or cross infection. So mainly the entry of the NICUs, remove the house shoes and wear NICU slippers before the entering. So you all will be knowing, so there will be separate room and separate sleeper gown will be there. So before entering any ICUs, not only in ICU, we must wear the gown, slippers, cap and the mask. We can't enter directly to the ICUs. Then next, the nails should be kept short and trimmed, scrubbed thoroughly, both the hands and forearms up to the elbows with the soap, water at least for 2 minutes. After removing the watch, rings and bangles, etc., dry with the single-use sterile napkins and rinse the hands with the sterilium. Thereafter, before touching any child, rinse your hands with sterilium in between the patients. If sterilium is not available, rewash the hands with the soap water at least for 30 seconds. So it is necessary to wash your hands or sterile your hands before and after touching to the baby. Mask should be worn if person working in an ICU is suffering from an acute respiratory tract infection. Not only person who is suffering respiratory tract infection, but all we must wear the mask. So aims of neonatal care. So what are the aims of neonatal care are to establish the respiration, maintain normal body temperature, then prevent contact with the infections, provide adequate nutrition, identify sick babies and manage them promptly. So these are the some aims of neonatal care unit. To provide continuing comprehensive physical care and supportive treatment required to maintain life and to aid recovery of actually ill children. To provide emotionally supportive care to actually ill children. To provide empathetic support to parents and families of children in the intensive care unit. To function effectively and safely, the ICU nurses should demonstrate the following capabilities, that is good physical and emotional health required to withstand the strain of continually nursing critically ill patient, understanding or pathophysiology of underlying disease, knowledge and understanding of sophisticated monitoring equipments and the special apparatus, ability to reason objectively and judge and be aware of rapidly changing situation. So we are the nurses will be there 24 into 7 to the mm, bedside, or we can say baby side, we can say. So all the time pediatrician or the neonatologist may not be available. So nurse must know everything and changing situation, or uh, she must inform the doctor if any variation occurs, ability to interrupt data and take rapid decision action, ability to perform complex technical skill correctly and in an organized manner, understanding of impact of illness and hospitalization on a life of a child, understanding of parental responses and ways of coping with the stress of critically ill child. So parents will be in panic or in worry, so that whether their child will recover or not. So we must give positive assurance to the family members or the parents. Then we must keep informing about their child condition and recovery. Ability to record the data concisely, accurately, and thoroughly. So we must record our data, our then child recovery, and monitors, etc. accurately and thoroughly. Then physical care of a child. So how we can care the child physically when the baby is admitted in an ICU? Apply the understanding of pathogenesis of disease and assessing the patient need and the planning care. Perform complex technical skills to monitor and support the child. These many includes cardiac, respiratory, blood pressure and monitoring, basic interpretation of electrogram, that is ECG tracing, endotracheal suctioning, and the oxygen administration and monitoring. Then tracheostomy care. If the baby has undergone under the tracheostomy, then we must give the tracheostomy care like frequent suctioning, and we must check for any blockage, etc. And ventilator management, like we must know the settings of ventilators, and monitoring the central venous pressure, monitoring intracranial pressure, measuring the arterial pressure, and hyperalimentation, collection of the specimens. Perform nursing activities related to life support of a child. These activities includes cardiopulmonary support, respiratory management, observation of neurological signs, fluid and nutritional assessment and management, observation for complication and changing status, apply general nursing measures for the patient comfort and prevention of complications, positioning to prevent the contractures to drain the secretion from the lungs and to minimize the pressure efforts on a skin. So baby skin will be very much delicate, so we must frequently change the position of a baby. We must care for the baby skin as well. Monitor regulation of body temperature, skin care to prevent the breakdown, eye care to prevent the conjunctivitis and injury to the cornea in unconscious children. Fluid balance, record daily fluid intake and all routines and losses of urine, stool, vomit, blood and other drainages must be sensitive to weight loss and gain. So we must maintain the intake and output chart in not only in an ICU but in every ICU. That is very important. Mouth care to cleanse the mouth of secretions, vomiters, especially in unconscious patients or patients. Control of infection and provide careful, continuous clinical observation of a child. So here we conclude my topic or this session. This session will help in clinical that how to care high risk babies, monitor and operate the ventilators. Also, you can set the priorities for the admissions of a patients and can give care according to their need. So NICU services has got major scope not only in India but also in abroad. This newer approach concept will help us to manage the critical cases. So here we end the session. So I sincerely thanks to all the dear students and beloved teachers for joining the session. Thank you, everyone. If you have any doubts or queries, you are free to ask, or you can put it in comment box. We will definitely answer for it. Is there any questions? Students, shall we end the session?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Have a good day.